Hi, my name is Jerry Bell and I am a flower photographer among many other things, and today we're going to take some pretty cool pictures of some kalanchoes that I purchased recently. These are some pink kalanchoes. I believe they're part of the cactus family. They're tiny little flowers, but I had in my mind that they would make a pretty cool image if if we could get really close to them and make it look like there was something of a field of these things. So the setup today is we're going to use my Nikon camera with the 105 millimeter macro lens. Get you a shot of that right there. That's on my homemade crazy tripod type thing. I have these are a pair of Godox /Flashpoint AD200 strobes, and that's being controlled by this flash trigger up here. I have HDMI coming out and going into my laptop, which is recording what you see in the back screen, and I'll put that as an inset so you can follow along at home, and that'll show like all the camera settings and let you see the images as we review them. I have a little 18-inch square softbox on this. I do have a much stronger flash that I'm hoping I don't have to use because it makes quite a lot of noise and would make this video a little less interesting. So I have a couple different camera angles that we'll be flipping between. I also should mention that I have a camera remote control hooked up to the camera. This particular remote gives me all of the functions that are available on the actual buttons on the camera. So it has, everything you would expect, and that I do that because it lets me take images and mess with camera settings without disrupting the camera, making it vibrate and whatnot. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I should mention I have this black pop-up background, which is a couple feet away. That's held up in place by a C-stand. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get to it. So one of the things that I've found works really well with these sorts of shots is to try to have it sweep up and have the camera at a bit of an angle so it's looking just across the tops of the flower blooms. That's, at least for me, what comes out as the most appealing type of image, particularly in a macro setting like this. So let's go ahead and get started. Right now I'm at f/16. The flash is at 1/16, and let's see what we get. So that's I think quite nice already. The colors are just absolutely stunning on this particular flower. So now, one of the things that I've found is that it's all about the composition. How you position the plant to get the best picture, and then in particular what you focus on within that picture. I found that the most appealing thing is to focus on the part of the flower that is closest to the camera, and then you let everything fall out of focus like that. So one thing I like is about this is, you know, there's a clump of blooms that are close in and in sharp focus, and then there's more blooms in the back which fall out of focus. But in this particular image, the ones in the back are kind of cut off, and I don't particularly like that look. So I'm going to try splitting hairs a little bit here and focus, you know, recompose a little bit so that the back is in frame and the front is still all in frame. And I think I have that. Let's try another shot. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Now, I was playing with this earlier, and I was able to get something that I thought was really cool, and I'm hoping I can find that again. And basically was like a leading line where the blooms of this plant kind of trailed off into the background, and that looked super appealing. Now my hope is to refine my technique here to the point where I can end up with some images that are, you know, worth selling as art. So right now I take these mostly for me, and I've amassed quite a collection of what I think are really nice images. But I want to get to the point where I can actually start putting some of these up for sale. Let's try turning and recomposing a little bit, and hopefully you can see on the screen where the focus point is. Yeah, I think that's really quite nice. I'm going to try increasing the flash power just a little bit. Get the camera to stop shaking here. I need to put an extension cord so that the flash trigger is not sitting directly on the camera, so it doesn't shake when I make adjustments. But you know, it is what it is right now. Okay, I think that's also quite nice. I did want to try one other thing, and that is a focus stack set. So for those who aren't aware, you know, right now we're at f/16, and normally that's like a very small aperture. In fact, a lot of lenses, it's the smallest aperture that you can go, or close to it. And if you were taking pictures at a, you know, like of landscape or of even people, that would probably provide you ample depth of field so that everything was reasonably in focus. But when you are taking pictures in a macro setting like this, it's just too narrow. You end up with a depth of field of perhaps 1/2 of an inch. Now I can certainly, you know, with this lens, I can certainly go up to f/40, and we can take a look and see what that looks like. And obviously at f/40 I have to increase this flash power a good bit to compensate. And so let's just flip back and forth between the f16. This is f16, and that's f40. f16. Focus on the very back flowers, and this is f40. They're still out of focus, but they're a lot less out of focus. With these, they're kind of, you know, blurred almost to obscurity. In this f40 shot, you can see that they're recognizable as flowers. They're just out of focus. The one reason I don't like to shoot everything at f40 is, though this camera does a great job at managing it, and the lens does too, diffraction starts to become a problem. Diffraction is, you know, what happens when you have a super small aperture and the light starts to interfere with itself on the lens, or sorry, on the sensor. But you know, that's a reason to keep a slightly larger aperture, but the slightly larger aperture results in a much narrower depth of field. So we can overcome this a little bit though. So if I go back to, let's say, f16 and back off on the strobe again, let's make sure that we are looking okay. What I can do is what's called focus stacking. So focus stacking basically takes a set of images where each image is at a slightly different, is focusing at a slightly different point. And this camera will actually do this automatically. So if I go to menu and I go up to photo shooting, I can do focus shift shooting. And there's a couple of settings that are available. Number of shots, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. That is, you know, like how many images it's going to take in total. The focus depth width is a scale from 1 to 10. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't tie to any like objective unit of measure. It's not like millimeters or centimeters or anything like that. I think it depends on a lot of things, like how close in you're focused and whatnot. So you can think of it as like, you know, increments of focus. I suppose perhaps each unit is the minimum. If you pick a 1 like I have now, maybe that is the smallest amount that the lens can advance as it focuses. So I'm going to keep it at 1 since we're super close in, and didn't mean to back out. The interval basically is how long does it wait between taking one shot and taking the next shot. And if you were out in the bright sunlight and you didn't require a strobe, there's really no reason for this not to be as low as possible, just to get done quickly. But I set it at 1 second because that gives the strobe a chance to recycle. This strobe, especially at this power level, should be fine. I think it's like it can handle this in like a tenth of a second, but it'll make sure that it's consistent. Let's see what else. The other thing to know is that on this particular camera, I don't know if all brand cameras do this. I think a lot of cameras will have an equivalent to this automatic focus bracketing. This camera starts at the closest point. So every subsequent image is going to be a little bit farther, the focus is going to be a little bit farther away. And so you want to focus the first shot on the closest part of the image. So that said, let's go ahead and get this rolling. Hit start, and this is going to take 60 seconds So, 60 shots, 1 second each is going to take a minute. I'm going to fast forward in post here. All right, that is it. So what we can do now is you can actually right now I'm scrolling through the images, and one thing I noticed is that on the very last image, the in focus part was about right here, which means that 60 wasn't enough. So what I'm going to do is try again. And this time I'm going to take it up to 90 because it seems like it got about 2/3 of the way there, maybe a little bit more. I found it very difficult, by the way, to estimate like how many shots you need. So it feels like I'm always either taking too few or too many. Taking too many is obviously preferable. Again, we're not like developing film here. That way I can just delete the ones I don't need. So let's go ahead and get going again. 90 seconds, so I will fast forward again. I feel like I should do some kind of ASMR video where the point of the video is just listening to the monotonous sound of the strobe firing. Anyway, by the way, I love making these videos. I love taking pictures of flowers. If you do like these, I would appreciate it if you can subscribe. If you have any questions about my setup, about the composition, about the lighting, whatever, drop a comment. I'd love to help out, love to talk about it. If you have any ideas on how to do this better, like one of the reasons I've started this channel is to force me to get better. And I've found that while there are a lot of videos on photography and just amazing photographers that I will never in a million years get anywhere close to touching, not a lot is focused on flower photography. And I suppose this is probably more akin to like product photography, but that tends to be just like, how do I take a picture that is suitable for some kind of an ad, whereas I'm really trying to focus on developing a form that is both represents the actual beauty of the flowers that I'm taking pictures of, but also, again, trying to turn something into art that people are interested in. So that's the genesis of why I'm here. Anyway, let's take a look at what we got. And so I can tell already that we took too many, which is fine. So I'm gonna keep rolling back through. Oh, I saw one where, oh, that's interesting. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. There's a little bit of additional black, so I'm not sure what's going on. So hopefully you can see as I scroll through the images here that the in focus part is changing. Started off at the back and it is kind of sweeping forward, and now we're this is the last set we took. So that's the first image, and we'll scroll till we get to the back, which is probably about, let's say there-ish. And so what I'll do is offline, I will put these into Helicon. I will stitch them together. I did notice, even though I tried really hard not to move anything, I could see a couple of the pictures shook. I don't know if that was because I was looking to see, where the, what the count was, shutter count was, or what. But it did move a little bit. Hopefully, Helicon can live with that. But yeah, there it is. So hopefully this was interesting and useful. I'm super interested in this. Again, if you have any ideas or questions, please let me know. If you know of any other photographers that have similar styles that I could learn from, drop their names or URLs or whatever in the comments. And anyway, I really appreciate you being here. This is definitely a passion of mine. If you're interested about me, I'm historically I've been in the IT security space, but this is really where my heart is. I've spent a lot of time in the IT world, but this is the thing that kind of gets me up in the morning, and I would love to do this full-time in the future if it actually paid well. So anyway, I love you all. Hope you have a great day. Take care, and hope you enjoy the final pictures from this set. See you next time.